the cemetery that lies just a mile or so away from here. There was a little graveyard on the rolling foothill plains that was bleached by the sun in summer, swept by winter snows and rains. There, a little bunch of settlers gathered on an autumn day around the homemade lumber coffin with their last respects to pay. Weary men that wrung their living from the hard and arid land, and beside them stood their women, faded wives with toil-worn hands. But among us stood one figure that was wiry, straight, and trim. Everyone amongst us knew was the Bronco twister, Jim. Just a bunch of hardened muscle, tempered with a savage grit, and he had the reputation of a man that never quit. He had helped to build the coffin, and he had helped to dig the grave. And his instincts seemed to teach him how he really should behave. Well, we didn't have a preacher, and the crowd was mighty slamming. Just two women with weak voices sang an old-time funeral hymn. That was all we had for service. The old wife was sobbing there, for her husband of a lifetime laid away without a prayer. She looked at the Bronco twister, and she walked right up to him, put one trembling arm around him and said, "Pray, please, won't you, Jim?" You could see his figure straighten, and a look of quick surprise shoot across his swarthy feature and his hard daredevil eyes. He could handle any Bronco, and he never dodged a fight. 'Twas the first time anybody ever saw his face turn white. But he took his big sombrero off his rough and shaggy head. I can remember every word that Bronco twister said. No, he wasn't educated. On the range his youth was spent, but the maker of creation knew exactly what he meant. He looked over towards the mountains where the drifting shadows played. Silence must have reigned in heaven when they heard the way Jim prayed. Years have passed since that small funeral in that lonely graveyard lot, but it gave us all a memory and a lot of food for thought. As we stood beside the coffin in a freshly broken sod with that reckless Bronco breaker talking heart to heart with God, when the prayer at last was over and the grave had all been filled, on his rough, half-broken pony, he rode off towards the hills. Yes, we stood there in amazement as we watched him ride away, for no words could ever thank him. There was nothing we could say. Since we gathered in that graveyard, it's been nearly 50 years, with their joys and their sorrows, hopes and with their fears. But I hope when I'm finished, and they lay me with the dead, someone says a prayer above me, like that Bronco twister said.